So my name is Lubisa. This is Lubisa. I'm Michael, in case it wasn't clear. And we are DMC Law. We are a team of lawyers, right? Where's our other lawyer? Where's he at?
He's in Florida, unfortunately.
Unfortunate for us. Yes, we are in London. And we have a website, dentistlawyers.ca. Lubisa, what's on our website?
On our website, you will find over 400 blogs. You'll find videos, kind of like this one, where we do talks on various things. And you can go and sign up for our weekly e-blast as well, which will sort of send those blogs to you every week.
Every week. Do you remember which day it is?
Wednesday.
Wednesdays.
Is that right,
Yes.
Michael?
Everybody looks forward to Wednesdays to receive more information. And we also put stuff like events that we're doing. We've got a dance event coming up. We've got talks in Bermuda or Barbados or Turks. So just to keep you apprised of what's happening in the dental industry from our perspective, right? We've got another website. We love websites. So what's this one all about, Lubisa?
This one's dentist legal forms. Currently, you can do your LOIs, which is a letter of intent, on there. We're working on the dual wills as well. So there's lots of fun and exciting things on this website.
Right. So the idea is, instead of paying big bucks to have a hotshot lawyer like Lubisa do it for you, you can do a lot of the legwork yourself. You go to the website. If you need a will, if you need powers of attorney, if you need employment contracts, or if you're a purchaser, you want to put together your own letter of intent, which we've talked about, you can do a lot of the legwork here and save some money and have some lawyers review it for you. It's a neat little idea that we think is good for the industry, right? Okay, here's what we're going to be talking about today. Maximizing the value of your dental practice before selling. And we're going to do it in two phases. Phase one is how to do it, how to maximize the value. And phase two is what's the process of actually selling. Okay? Your last years. Your last years are like, you've been running a marathon and you're starting to slow down, but really it's the last years that count. Those last sets of financial statements. Where are you at in terms of production? Are your staff on contracts? What shape is the lease in? So just think it's those last years that really, really count, because we're going to share some stories with you where things don't go right, and it's because things were not done properly in those last years, right? Increase production. Step number one. I'll give you an example. We just closed a deal. We had the 2012 financials. I asked for the 2013, got the 2013. Production went down. Went down big time. And I said, we're not going to complete this deal unless we get a big chunk of money off the purchase price. And we were 9/10 of the way done the deal. $50,000 came off the purchase price, deal closed. And it was all because 2013 had a big drop in production. So keep your productions as high as possible in those last 2 years. Make sense? By the way, this is the back of Lubisa's car, in case you're wondering where I took this picture. And we'll get into why there's piles of cash in the back of her car.
It's currently in the trunk. Nobody try to steal.
Yeah, don't try to steal her car. Okay. Next, you need a strong team. Do you guys recognize any of these people up here? The Expendables, yeah. Schwarzenegger on the left, Stallone in the middle. You need a strong team. You've heard it how many times today? You need a good, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Team, right. Now, we're not talking about us. We're talking about a good internal team. You notice I didn't use the word staff. Why? What's the difference between staff and team? Ken, you've got your eyebrows up. You know. Go ahead.
Well, from my perspective, the team works together,
right? Staff are widgets that are replaceable, that are not empowered, that have nowhere to go, and that's what a staff is. And a boss leads a staff. A team leader leads a team, so that the team leader can go play golf in Bermuda with us and leave the rest of the team producing effectively and efficiently in the office. And they themselves become team leaders, and so on and so forth. So have a strong team. Team agreements. Can everybody see this little cartoon here? I didn't mean to steal your clients. You forgot to mark your territory, right? So what do I mean, Lubisa, when I talk about team agreements? What is that?
We're talking staff contracts. And we're talking associate agreements and independent contractor agreements. There's some hygienists out there that want to be independent contractors. There's that.
Okay, so what are some of the pitfalls of not having an associate agreement in place? And there's numerous court cases that simply say if there's no contract, nothing in writing in place to prevent this from happening, an associate who has been the exclusive provider of dental services can solicit those patients can request copies of records of those patients that they have treated, can tell staff, hey, why don't you give the principal notice and come join me across the street, and then can actually set up across the street and start competing. If that doesn't scare you, it should, right? Now you guys are probably thinking, uh-oh, is all that written some down? I gotta check again those associate agreements. What about staff contracts? And when I say staff, I mean front desk, chair side, and hygiene. What kind of things go into those agreements?
You can have non-solicit in those agreements. Non-competes, like the associate agreements, wouldn't necessarily go into a staff agreement.
Okay.
Michael, why is that?
It's not there because when you have entry-level positions like front desk or chair side, courts have basically said you can't prevent somebody who have these types of positions from earning a livelihood and going to work across the street. You might be able to do it if you are a purchaser and you've paid a whack of money to the seller and you're asking the seller, don't compete across the street, sign this agreement, and the courts will say, yeah, that makes sense. But when it's an entry-level, job, then non-competes are generally not enforceable in this context. Does that make sense? The different contexts matter. Okay. Now, we can get more and more into employment contracts, but a lot of people have been talking about the lease and the landlord. Does this spell it out? Does this make sense? Yeah?
Does that
George?
look like your landlord?
George? Yeah? So, no, this is not George. I'm just, yeah. Okay, so some examples. We did a deal. Lovisa, you remember this deal. It was like a year and a half ago. This deal is infamous now for those who are involved and those who've heard about it. What was the practice appraised for?
If this is the deal I think you're talking about,
It is.
then the appraisal was over $1 million.
Over $1 million. What did our purchaser put in an offer for, which was accepted?
$850, I think. was the
$850.
offer, yeah.
When we reviewed the lease and discovered a demolition clause, what did the new offer become?
It was $500,000.
$500,000, down from $1 million, half price because of a demolition clause. Do you guys know what a demolition clause is? It gives the landlord the right to terminate the lease in case they want to demolish the building, redevelop it into a condo. You should definitely check your lease and see if that's there. I am currently working on a deal right now where, again, it's a bad lease. It's not a demolition clause. It's a third party has the option to take over the dentist's space when the lease expires. And the dentist has all these options to renew, but those options to renew come after the third party gets to take over their space. So it's subject to this third party right. So there's only 4 years left. It's $1 million practice, and one of our clients is going to probably be picking it up for $800,000. So the selling dentist will lose money by having a bad lease. Does that make sense? Landlords are notoriously difficult. I mean, this is it. This is your landlord, nine times out of 10. We try to work with the landlord. We try to clean up the lease as early as possible. Otherwise, you guys lose money. Incorporate. How many of you guys are incorporated? Yeah? Some nods, some, yeah? Lovisa, what is this back here? What is this thing here?
This is a minute book.
And what goes into a minute book?
Money. No, just kidding. So in this minute book, you'll find basically everything you need to know about your corporation, including your articles of incorporation, ledgers. You'll find share certificates. Basically, just everything about your corporation should be in this one place, and it should all be organized and up to date.
Does everybody need to have one of these if they're selling? The answer, I'm sure Ken will advise on this, the accountant, is maybe. It depends on whether you're selling the share certificates, as Lovisa mentioned, are in this compendium of documents, or the assets. Do you guys understand the difference between selling assets versus selling shares of a company? If whoever owns those share certificates in that book owns that corporation, and that corporation will in turn own the dental practice assets, versus the dentist just owns the practice assets themselves. So there's two ways to do it, but there's definite tax advantages, and Ken will probably get into it, in selling the share certificates instead of selling the assets. It's called the lifetime capital gains exemption. There's lots of rules to qualify, and there's an example where a dentist came to see us, and she was a lovely lady, and she had an accountant who was not familiar with any of the rules of the RCDSO set up her professional corporation. Did not set it up properly, did not put her husband or her daughter as shareholders. She came to us and said, here's the offer for, I think it was like $2 million. I want to sell all the shares. And we looked at her minute book and said, this is done wrong. If you sell, you're going to be on the hook for a lot of tax. Versus if you, your husband, and your daughter sell, you will pay about, I think it was like $200,000, $300,000 less in tax. You will save that amount of money. And she said, well, it wasn't set up. Can we just go back in time? I said, no. You've been filing documents with the government, with the CRA, with the RCDSO, showing that you and you alone were the only shareholder, and your accountant has screwed you over. So she wasn't very happy. What are her options? Go after the accountant. I don't know if she wants to do that. Or fix it and wait 2 years to sell, because that's one of the requirements, right? And Ken will get into that. So make sure your PC, your professional corp, gets set up properly at the beginning so that you don't end up in a situation like she did, right?